Hello, I'm Inspector Robert Wagner with the OCSO County Sheriff's Office and a member of our dive team. These videos are of dive training that we had in October 2021, showing some of the different types of searches and evidence recovery that we train for and use in the real world. This particular search that Lieutenant Jason Fulgham is starting is an arc search. We have a dive team member on a dock holding the other end of the line that you see in the lieutenant's left hand as he's searching through vegetation, mud, algae, a little bit of muck. It gets deeper where he's searching. In this particular scenario, the suspect allegedly threw a shotgun off the end of the dock, and the lieutenant is searching for that. If we had very good visibility, it would be easy. In this case, you can see the vegetation and muck is getting to be about 2 feet deep. You cannot visually see a metal item, such as a shotgun or a weapon that's been thrown in that. It'll sink to the bottom. So he is searching that muck inch by inch with his left hand and forearm. So fingertips to elbow he has on the bottom, and he is moving back in a slow sweeping motion to ensure that he feels the bottom the entire way along the arc that he is swimming holding that line. The diver on shore is monitoring his position and will tell him when to turn. We do this through line pulls, or we have underwater communications. In this particular case, we were training with line pulls. So the dive tender on the dock will instruct the diver in the water when to turn around. So this type of search with this line on the bottom, it's got weights on either end, is a jackstay search. During this jackstay search, this diver has found what may be evidence, a knife. We recover items like this in the water in which we found it. So in this case, you see him place the knife into a watertight container, where that container with the potential evidence will be delivered to our crime scene techs, submersed, which slows oxidation, and they will, when they're ready to process the evidence, for any evidence they may find on it, they'll remove it from the item, they'll dry it appropriately, and do what they do. So this is another view of a jackstay. In this case, the diver on the bottom of the screen is using the fingertips to elbow across the bottom search pattern. The diver on the top is using a metal detector. So the jackstays have a heavy weight at either end. It's just a long line. You'll see the diver with the metal detector picks up the weight and he moves it over. And that movement distance is based on the visibility and how far they want to move it in any given time. And now they'll do the same thing heading back down the jackstay. When they get to the other end, they'll move it in the same direction and they'll keep going. And by using this method, they can methodically search an area as large as it needs to be. One of the most somber things we do on the dive team is recover victims from beneath the surface. Whether it be from an accident, a crime, a drowning, this is one of the more difficult things that we do. When we find a victim, or if we find evidence that we're not going to immediately recover, we mark the victim or the evidence with a floating buoy. That way, no matter what happens with visibility, diver orientation, we have the ability to immediately go back to the victim or the evidence. You'll see When the second diver comes in and starts recording with video the scene where the victim was discovered, visibility deteriorates. And that's natural. That happens in a lot of the freshwater stuff that we dive. And it happened in the bayous and the bay. In the beginning, the visibility is pretty decent, and as careful as this diver is being to not stir up the bottom, it's inevitable. So our dive team trains usually once a month for a full shift, a full day. And our dive team leader, supervisor, Sergeant Kyle Corbett, is a PADI instructor. So once a month we get together and we do different types of dive training. In this particular case, we were doing search patterns and some person, victim recovery and evidence recovery skills. A lot of times we'll work on different certifications since we have an in-house PADI instructor. Sergeant Corbett will help dive team members get certified in advanced diving, deep diving, night diving. For the most part, we get everybody certified on full face masks, which you've seen most of our divers wearing. We've got dry suits. There's certifications for each of those. You can see the visibility starts to get lower and lower the more we're around, in this case, the victim, but that happens around evidence too. That's why it's very important to mark the place, the victim, the evidence quickly. The other thing we can do with that floating buoy is it helps us get a good location where the victim or the evidence was recovered. If we have a vessel in the water that we're diving and where we're recovering, we can use the GPS on the vessel, or we can triangulate some pictures from different points on shore to where the floating buoy is to more accurately document where the victim or the evidence was recovered. We have a mixture of diving experience on our dive team. We've got some folks that have been diving for 30+ years. We've got some members who are relatively newly certified. Again, it's an advantage having our dive team leader be a PADI instructor because he can provide additional training as we go.